Hello, welcome back. This is our first official episode. Today I'll be breaking down the Mayor of Kingstown, the pilot, the very first episode. This comes from Taylor Sheridan, actor, writer, producer, and director. It is a gritty, realistic crime drama set in the fictional industrial blue-collar town of Kingstown, Michigan, set along the Great Lakes. There are 7 prisons within a 10-mile radius with 20,000 people incarcerated. As Jeremy Renner's character, Mike, our hero, narrates in the opening scene, this is a company town, and the business is incarceration. The effect the prisons have on this town is overbearing to say the least, affecting everyone from police, citizens, gangs, businesses, all the way down to the children. We see this in the opening scene with the child tossing a tennis ball. We see Mike playing catch with him. Far from an innocent game of catch this is, though. Once we see Mike direct him where to go, we see the kid throw up the tennis ball and hit it with his racket, just to go over the prison wall, where a corrupt guard sees it and knows exactly what it is. If you've determined what it might be, you're correct. There's drugs in that tennis ball. You see, in Mayor of Kingstown, corruption is a part of everyday life. According to our hero, or anti-hero, depending on how you look at it, there is no order without everyone being just a little corrupt. There would only be chaos and violence if everyone didn't bend the rules just a bit. Bending the rules is a far cry from what actually occurs in this show. Sheridan studied current prison politics, especially California's Department of Corrections, to base what the prison system in Kingstown is like. The COs are arguably the worst and most intimidating gang in the walls. The COs are also known as the prison guards. They yield all the power and can dictate lockdowns, beatings, and can put people in solitary confinement if they don't play to the beat of their drum. The gangs of the inmates are divided by race, and this is something that he based off the California's structure in prison. This is where the mayor comes in. The pilot introduces us to Mitch, Mike, and Kyle McCluskey, 3 brothers with a deceased father who started their family business, and their wise, realist mother, who also works in the women's prison as an American history teacher. One could consider her the moral compass of the show. Whilst everyone is entrenched in the drama and politics, she is always on the outside looking in, wishing the best, but expecting the worst. She has a powerful presence in every scene she's in. Her students are always paying the utmost attention to her lectures as she humanizes and expresses an empathetic tone in her teaching, making many students cry. Her character is profound in that way. Her dialogue is never wasted and always has a powerful impact. The mayor acts as a liaison between the inside and the outside, maintaining any semblance of peace and order there can possibly be without war being a constant. At least this is what our central characters think, and us, the audience, is only seeing things from the mayor's perspective, so we can't think of any other solutions as we are always feeling the stress of the mayor. The pilot shows Mitch, the eldest, played by Kyle Chandler, as the heir of the throne. What was once his father's role, Mitch has already taken over when we begin and is well known in the town as the go-to guy to fix problems. Keep in mind, there is a real Mayor of Kingstown, and Mitch is certainly not that. Rather, a person who can maintain order on the outside with the gangs, the police, and the families of the inmates, along with communicating with the gangs on the inside to ensure everyone is as happy and as safe as possible. We meet Mitch with Mike, who at this point is his enforcer and assistant. He is talking with the father of an inmate. The man's son broke a guard's jaw and is getting 5 years added to his sentence. Of course, he is not happy with this and wants something to happen. However, there is not much one can do. The prisoner is now under threat by other guards and will likely endure beatings and other forms of abuse. Mitch's recommendation shows us how dark and unruly this world is. He casually tells the father to tell your kid to noose up with the sheet, and he'll be on the warden's radar, which means he will be safe from the guards. Now, this is the opening dialogue of the entire show. Sheridan puts this disturbing scene in first to shock us into understanding the gravity of how heavy this subject matter is to come for the entire series. We jump directly into the madness and darkness of this dystopian yet realistic Kingstown, Michigan. So Taylor Sheridan is a unique voice in the recent decade as an emerging writer and director. One may know him as the goofy Deputy David Hale in Kurt Sutter's Sons of Anarchy. Prior to screenwriting, he was an actor. He transitioned to screenwriting after he turned 40 years old. His first film was the gritty 2015 film Sicario, starring Josh Brolin and Benicio del Toro. This film is about an FBI agent tasked with taking down the leader of a brutal and powerful Mexican drug cartel. From his first work as a screenwriter, we can see that Sheridan does not shy away from dark, realistic subject matters that most people either ignore or are too scared to talk about, much less make entire films and television shows about. So now that we understand the mind of the creator a little bit more, we can better understand how brutal and dark this world of Kingstown we are entering is. After the father leaves, we are introduced to Vera, the wife of Milo, an inmate we have yet to meet but is actually the evil villain of the entire series. She gives Mitch a map that leads to $200,000, and if he retrieves it, he can keep $10,000, once again illustrating that everyone in this town is corrupt in some form or fashion. Mitch reluctantly agrees to do it. The transition shots show the town from a drone, and always has a gray-blue color and very deep, cool tones to illustrate the stark, bleak world everyone is living in. The word depressing does not give justice to how corrupt and violent this world is. A better word would be disheartening, dispiriting, or demoralizing. We see the lake and feel how cold and isolated everyone is, along with people's hearts and minds. A major character in the show is not an actual person, yet something that holds a very powerful force in everyday life: the cell phone. The cell phone is always the catalyst for every wild scene to follow. Once again, we are in the seat of the mayor, and his phone is always going off. Driving from one place to another, our central character's phone consistently goes off and completely changes where they go and what they do, as there is regularly a crime scene or a complete disaster that needs to be resolved. We are on the front seat with the mayor, as we feel the stress and anxiety of having to be everyone's problem solver among people who do nothing but cause problems. Tension, fear, anxiety, intimidation, lies, deceit, all in a regular day's work for the Mayor of Kingstown. Mitch and Mike eventually make their way to meet Bunny Washington, the outside leader of the Crips, who was a form of comic relief in the series and the pilot. Bunny has a very fun-loving, upbeat personality that brings some positivity to this world. In Bunny's intro, we see camaraderie that he has with the McCluskey brothers. Yet Bunny will still pull a gun on you if things call for it, as we see later in the episode when he pulls a gun on Mike over a misunderstanding, only to have Mike disarm him and de-escalate the situation. Bunny chalked it up to being worked up. Back in the prison, we are about to be engulfed in yet another form of corruption. Sheridan does not shy away from this in the pilot episode, as he wants to illustrate that there are not any good groups of people in this show. There are bad people in each group, whether it be the actual gangs, the police officers, the SWAT, the guards, the politicians. Each group has deplorable, corrupt individuals that make everyone else's life harder. Yet it's also a dog-eat-dog world, so one always has to contemplate, what would I do? We meet a young 22-year-old prison guard who gets intimidated by a gang member when he is putting inmates back in their cells. Once the prisoner calls him a bitch, the young hothead decides to break protocol and uses nightstick on the inmate and beats him into hospitalization. We also see the corruption here, so to cover his tracks, he slams his own head against the wall and gives himself wounds and then calls for help, claiming he got attacked first. He continues this lie throughout the episode to all of his superior guards. Finally, we meet Kyle, the youngest of the McCluskey brothers. Kyle is Kingstown PD, yet occasionally works with his brothers Mike and Mitch. Unlike his brothers, Kyle is married, and his job has a lasting negative impact on his wife, Tracy. Kyle and Tracy live with the mother, the powerful history teacher discussed earlier. The McCluskey brothers retrieve the $200,000 requested by Milo and his wife Vera and take their $10,000 cut. In the meantime, Milo's wife is shown at a strip club and provides a lap dance for a very creepy, insecure guy who had seen her at the mayor's office earlier that day. She gets off work and heads home. We see the exhaustion in her eyes, and she begins to unwind in her apartment, only to have that same creep break in and say, "You still owe me a dance." Vera grabs her gun and tries to shoot the intruder, yet a fight ensues and he ends up strangling her and stealing her tip money. A real scumbag. He also finds the map that shows where the $200,000 is. Back at the office, Mitch is heading in to get the $200,000 organized, only to meet the scumbag again, with a gun to his head. As you can tell, Sheridan does not steer away from anything in this pilot. This world he created is evil at its core. The scumbag demands Mitch open the safe, which he does, but he decides to shoot him anyway. He escapes with the $200,000. At this point in the pilot, we have two good characters killed by the same person, corruption from many different players in the town, drug deals, and brutal fights. Sheridan was not playing around when he wrote this script. It was meant to shock, it was meant to shake. However, it still feels as if this could very well be a real-life story and/or place. To spare you the details of every facet of the rest of this pilot, I will now hit on major plot points. After it is found out that Mitch has been killed, Mike has to see him, much to the dismay of the police officers. It is here we are shown the trauma that haunts every character on the series. We feel the trauma of Mike, seeing his older brother in the worst way possible. It is also here where he accepts that things are seriously about to change. Finally, the scumbag gets found out and the SWAT team goes in and shoots him dead. Vigilante justice with the law performing. The end of the pilot shows the endearing and powerful mother lecturing Mike about how wrong his lifestyle is and says she expected Mitch to end that way. It is yet another form of her realism bleeding through. Although she is grieving and is heartbroken, she is still understanding of the situation and how it could have and should have been avoided. She tells Mike he will end the same way and encourages him to leave Kingstown, although he can't because this is all he knows. Don't delude yourself into thinking any of this is for the common good. This is what the mom tells Mike in regards to the job that Mike and Mitch share, the mayor of Kingstown. Her dialogue is powerful, and once again, very much comes in that scene. And that's the pilot of the Mayor of Kingstown. 1 hour and 15-minute episode. Lots of drama, lots of trauma, lots of gritty realism. Taylor Sheridan did not shy away. He hits all the painful subject matters that a lot of people are scared to write about. Signing off, Timmy Two. Come back soon for Episoda 2. Thanks for listening.